Welcome to Pelvic Floor 1.3. By now, you should have done the other classes a couple of times and be feeling pretty confident with your pelvic floor contraction. Let's go a little bit further with our functional movement with our pelvic floor. We're going to start by lying down on our backs in neutral pelvis, remembering that we need that gentle curve in the spine in the lower back. Our feet and our knees are going to be together. We're going to go over our knee drop side exercise again. Let's take the fingertips underneath our hips with our palms facing the floor so that you can feel the bony alignments on each side of your pelvis. Let's do a few pelvic floor contractions to warm up. Remember, if you are feeling stiff or sore in any part of your spine or hips, make sure you do one of the mobility warm-up classes before this pelvic floor class. We're going to take a breath in to prepare. On the exhale, we're going to lift our pelvic floor up to the third floor. Then we're going to inhale and slowly release pelvic floor down to the ground floor. Exhale, step into the lift, close the doors, take it up to the third floor. Inhale, release pelvic floor down to the ground floor. One more time, remember the space between your hip bones should be becoming firm and flat and sinking down slightly, and there should be no rectus abdominis or no six-pack interaction. So there's no bracing with the abs like you're picking up a heavy box. Remember, it's just your bowel and bladder control function muscles. Let's add some movement in. We're going to inhale to prepare. Exhale, engage our pelvic floor and open both knees to the side. Let's inhale, release pelvic floor as we come back into the center. Exhale, engage pelvic floor to open. Inhale, release pelvic floor on the way back in. Exhale, engage pelvic floor to open. You should feel equal pressure on both sides of your hands. Let's keep our pelvic floor on the whole time now. So let's just have a practice before we move. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to engage the pelvic floor, but don't move. Inhale, hold your pelvic floor on. Exhale, hold your pelvic floor on. Inhale to slowly release. One more time. Exhale to contract pelvic floor. Inhale to hold. A full inhale. Exhale to hold. Inhale to hold. Exhale, lift a little bit higher this time. And then inhale, release pelvic floor down. Let's move the legs again. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, pelvic floor to open. Inhale to return, keeping pelvic floor on. You can either release your pelvic floor here and re-engage to open, or you can keep it on the whole time, depending on how confident you're feeling today. So either keeping pelvic floor the whole time on while you move the body, or re-engaging on the out breath a fraction of a second before you move your knees. Remember, your pelvic floor is like the ignition to your engine. You need to turn it on before you can move your body. Equal pressure on both sides of the hands for the last time. Double knee drop side. Let's switch to single knee drop side now. So the aim here is to keep the pelvis perfectly still, no matter how far your knee goes. So it's not about how far your knee goes, it's about how still you can keep your pelvis. Remember, the knee that's left behind has to stay pointing at the ceiling and not move out to the side as a counterweight. We're going to inhale to prepare. Exhale to engage the pelvic floor, open the knee. Inhale, return to the center, but don't let that pelvic floor go. Exhale, pelvic floor, open your other knee to the side. Inhale to return to the center, but don't let the pelvic floor go. Now, can you feel equal pressure from the bones on your hands? Doesn't matter if you've got more pressure from the fleshy parts, the muscle and the fat. It's equal pressure of the bones on the hands. You've got to think past those fleshy bits. Exhale to open that one knee. Inhale to return. Let's do one more. And now you're going to release your pelvic floor totally, no pelvic floor at all. Take that knee out to the side and back. Take the other knee out to the side and back. You should now feel more pressure on one side because you're not doing any pelvic floor contraction to stabilize the pelvis. So it should feel really wobbly and loose. Let's take those hands out. We're going to take the feet a little bit wider apart. It should be about as wide as that, not very far apart at all. We're going to stay in neutral. So for the previous exercise, it was your job not to take your hips side to side. Now your job is not to lose your neutral going forwards and backwards this way. So that little gap underneath the low back needs to be maintained the whole time. We're going to do single knee floats. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, engage your pelvic floor, float one knee to 90-90. Let's inhale, take the foot down, and then release the pelvic floor. Exhale, pelvic floor, float your other leg to 90-90 without pushing that pelvis out of neutral. We want to keep a right angle at our knees, which is why I move my feet out a little bit further, so that there's only movement in the hip and there's no movement in the knee. So we don't want to see this or this. Have to have a right angle at the knee joint. We're folding the hip joint like a well-oiled door hinge. Exhale to fold. Inhale to come down. If you're feeling really clunky and tight in the hips, you might want to do one of the hip mobility classes before you do your pelvic floor work. Exhale to float. Inhale to come down. Maintain that pelvic floor contraction. Either keep it on or re-engage just before you float that leg up. Single knee float. This is particularly good for any of you that are recovering from a spinal injury like a disc herniation. Keeping one foot on the ground at all times. It's called closed chain because we've got connection to the floor. Let's make it a little bit more challenging now. We're going to exhale, float the knee to 90-90. We're going to extend that leg until it's straight. Then we're going to fold it back in and place it down. Exhale, pelvic floor, other leg, float. Inhale to extend. Exhale to fold. Inhale to place it down. Now you're keeping your pelvic floor on the whole time, or if you do lose it while you're moving, just re-engage on the out breath. This is all about coordinating pelvic floor, breath, and movement together. Now, of course, you don't have to do as many as I'm doing if you're finding you're fatiguing quite quickly. But when you feel fatigue, you should feel it low down in your tummy between your hip bones, but you might feel fatigue in the front of your leg as well. You might feel very slightly in your lower back, no more than 3 to 5% in the lower back. Exhale to float. Now remember, it's your job to keep your pelvis still, no matter where your legs are, no matter where they're moving. Let's do one more. Exhale, fold, extend, fold, and place back down again. Let's do both legs up at the same time now. So this is only appropriate for those that have no back pain and are feeling like you can progress this a little bit further with our pelvic floor. We're going to inhale to prepare. Exhale, pelvic floor, float one leg to 90-90. Float your other leg to 90-90, and we're going to stay here. Pelvis is in neutral. Right angle at the hips, right angle at the knees. What I don't want to see is this to get into position, because all you've done there is come out of neutral and you're trying to use your back muscles instead of your transverse abdominis and pelvic floor muscles. Let's inhale to prepare. Exhale, pelvic floor, then float one leg to 90-90. Second leg to 90-90. We're going to inhale to hold. Exhale to hold. Inhale to hold. That tummy should be flat. Inhale to hold. Exhale, draw that pelvic floor a little bit higher and draw that lower tummy down a little bit lower. Take one leg down to the floor with control. Second leg down to the floor with control and rest. Let's take the other leg up this time. So I used my left leg that time. Now I'm going to use my right leg. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, pelvic floor, then float the leg to 90-90. Either just use one leg or come with me with two legs. Inhale and hold. Exhale, keep that pelvic floor on or lift it a little bit higher. Inhale to hold. Exhale, pelvic floor. Inhale to hold. Exhale, lift it that little bit higher. And of course, if you can't do that many breaths, take one foot down then the other, you can do one breath or two breaths. You don't have to do those full 5 breaths that I was doing. It's better for your pelvic floor to do the easy version well then the hard version poorly. This isn't about how long you can keep your pelvic floor on or how many repetitions you can do. It's about how well you can contract your pelvic floor and move at the same time. Let's do a couple more variations. This time we're going to come onto our sides. So you can either put a pillow under your head or you can just use your arm. We're going to have our pelvis in neutral, so we need that gentle curve in the lower back. We're going to have our hand on our lower tummy between our hip bones. We're just going to do some pelvic floor contractions. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, contract that pelvic floor. Inhale to release. Exhale, contract. You should feel the space under your hand become a little bit more firm and flat and draw away from your hand. Doesn't matter what size your body is, the muscles underneath are still drawing in. And release. Exhale, pelvic floor. And release. Last time, exhale, contract that pelvic floor. And release. Let's keep that pelvic floor on the whole time now. We're going to inhale to prepare. Exhale, contract the pelvic floor. Inhale to hold. Exhale to hold. Inhale, hold it on. Exhale, deepen the contraction now, lift it higher. Now inhale and slowly release. One more time, inhale to prepare. Exhale, contract the pelvic floor. Inhale to hold. Exhale, lift it a little bit more. Inhale to hold. Last exhale, lift it higher. Inhale, release. Let's switch to the other side. So we're not doing any movement in that position just yet. We're just practicing that pelvic floor contraction because it does feel different when you're lying on your side. You can also use your fingertips and press in deeply if you want to feel that transverse abdominis contracting. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, contract pelvic floor. Inhale to release. Exhale to contract. Does it feel different on this side? Because your pelvic floor can have asymmetrical strength. I'm feeling it much more on my left side today than my right side. Remember, pain is a pelvic floor inhibitor. So if you are experiencing any acute pain, you might not feel like your pelvic floor contraction is as strong. Also, if you're menstruating, you might also find it difficult to contract the pelvic floor. Last time. And let's go for our pelvic floor hold. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, engage the pelvic floor. Inhale to release. Exhale to contract. Sorry. We're doing our pelvic floor holds. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, engage that pelvic floor. Inhale to hold. Exhale, hold the pelvic floor on. Inhale to hold. Last exhale. Inhale and slowly release. Remember, we want that full inhale, so we don't want that little kind of breath because you're straining and struggling to keep that pelvic floor on. You should be able to do a really relaxed, full breath, even though your pelvic floor is contracting. Let's do one more hold. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to contract. Inhale to hold. Exhale to hold. Inhale to hold. Exhale, lift your pelvic floor a little bit higher, and then inhale to slowly release. Okay, let's try pelvic floor contraction in 4-point kneeling. So you're going to place your hands underneath your shoulders, so you can either have hands flat on the floor or you can have weight on your fists. Knees are underneath the hips, but we want pelvis in neutral. So this is not neutral, this is not neutral. You need to have a gentle curve in your lower spine right here, so you're swinging your tail up towards the ceiling a little bit. Now, your upper back is also in neutral. So we want to push ourselves away from the floor with our hands or our fists like we're coming out of a push-up. The space across your shoulder blades should be completely flat. So I should be able to put a tray of hot Turkish coffee on the back of your pelvis and a tray on the back of your shoulders. Your neck should also be in line. So the back of the head is almost in line with that upper back, like so. You might want to pick up those ribs under the bra line a little bit. Okay, we're going to do pelvic floor in this position. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to engage pelvic floor. Inhale, release the pelvic floor. Exhale to contract. Inhale to slowly release. Exhale to contract. Keep pushing away from the floor. Inhale to release. Let's do a pelvic floor hold. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to engage. Inhale to hold. Exhale to hold. Inhale to hold. Exhale, lift a little bit higher. You might feel it in your lower back now. You might feel like there's a tightening across your sacrum. That is fine. That is correct. You want that. Inhale to release. And if you need to give those hands a shake, you can. We're going to do one more pelvic floor hold. Make sure that pelvis is in neutral. Swing the tail out. Push yourself away from the floor. Nod the chin in, long through the back of the neck. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to engage the pelvic floor. Squeezing. Inhale to hold. Exhale to hold. Inhale to hold. Exhale to hold, lift it higher. Inhale to slowly release. And then we're going to take our hips down to our feet and we're going to give our hands a little shake. And that is all we're going to do for this pelvic floor session, because if you've just started your pelvic floor journey, all those exercises are actually quite a lot together and you may be feeling quite fatigued in that lower tummy, and after that last one, a little bit across the sacrum. So feel free to do this class as many times as you like. The really important thing about these classes is getting that pelvic floor working really well, these simple exercises, before we move to the more complex exercises. This way, you are more able to improve that strength in your lower back, reduce pain, and help heal from injury. I'll see you next time.